Hey, I'm live. All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Dreamiverse, where today we will drive down the road together. Just shortly. I felt like coming on live. I don't know why I did, but here we are. Well, I tried to register my truck at the DMV kiosk. That didn't go as planned. I guess apparently they want proof of proof of insurance. Just like everything in California, they want proof of fucking everything. You know, it's all right though. I gotta go to my house and deal with the insurance guy now and get my insurance. I know I have insurance. I just gotta renew it anyway. So I'll do that first and then go renew the truck. Eh. Hoping to see some people in here eventually. It'd be kind of cool. No big sweat. I got a few viewers already. What's up, guys? Hey, good to see everyone. Say hi in chat if you'd like. I'm uh I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Maybe go grab a beer or something like that. Lazy Jedi, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? I'm live driving. Probably illegal, but what's legal in California except marijuana? And yeah, it's a nice day today. 6 degrees. I got the air conditioning on anyway. Beautiful green mountains as usual. Really don't want to move from here. It's a really nice area. It's really gonna piss me off if I have to. I keep getting told I should rent my house out. I was considering I should. If I'm gonna dump this state, I'm gonna dump it for real. It's all going. It's done. They pushed me out, and then I gotta go fucking complete the California cycle and go to someone else's state and piss them off too. I mean, not like it used to be, right? Wait up, dude. I can't see what it says. Just smoke a dab, everything will be all right. That's right, baby. You know what's up, Rami. I'm trying to back to the house here. I'm gonna go smoke a bowl, I guess. It's probably the best course of action at the moment. Go smoke a bowl, live stream with the homies. You know what's up, just stuff. Lots of cops today, though. I did notice. Sheriff's out in fucking force. Good old boys are all fucking around. I got lots of tin on my truck, so whatever. I don't give a fuck. And I had a good stream last night, man. I did a 10-hour stream yesterday. 10 hours. Well, 5 minutes still. And then YouTube took it down because of copyright violations, but whatever. I'm not monetized yet, so they're not they're not sticking me with the spear. Casey Jones was on the whole time. We got pretty wasted last night. There's a lot of people getting drunk. There's a lot of people getting drunk. We went to MCS for the after party. Did the G party afterwards, and that was pretty fun. You know, good times. Good times. And I hope everybody else had a good time too. And if we didn't, there's always next time. Right? So we're gonna boringly drive to where I live, and we're gonna turn off the camera so you don't know where I live. Bing, bang, boom. No self doxing here on the Juniverse. Hey, Pat. Minnesota, eh? Is that why they get the accent? Because they're so cold and so hot. Minnesota. I don't know. I'm not very good at the accent, I guess. Well, hello, neighbor. Why are you waving off the side? Oh, that's strange. She was doing the arm wag. Eh. I can't do it. I'm on camera anymore. Sorry. All right. Back into the driveway. Like I always do. Because I'm a crazy white boy. That backs into driveways. I just technically doxed myself because now y'all know I back in my driveway. E-brake sets automatically. Engine already on, bring. It is bong 30. Technically, it's 338, but close enough. I was a good boy. I locked my own door. You know, I live in the country, but still got that occasional random meth head that walks around, does his thing. Hey, so. You the first one to meet me here? You want to hang out, or you just want to run away? You want to hang out? Yeah. Oh, you just want to run it. All right, that's cool. I'm down with that. I get it. I'd be mad at me too if I was gone all day and, you know. Did I clean your cat box? I think I did. Yeah, I know I did. You're just weirdo. You're a weirdo. Oh, my little weirdo. My little weirdo. Check out my little weirdo, everybody. Oh, he's my little weirdo. My little weirdo. I love this weirdo. He jumped in my car one day and said, "I'm coming home with you." And I said, "Well, I guess." Cuteness factor is there. He's definitely spoiled now. He's getting fat. Look at his fatty. He's a big fatty. Yeah. Maybe I'll just jump on the PC. Ooh, that was bright. I was like, rip eyeballs. Got something to do here, you know? Smoke weed tastes great. Here we go. In the Weediverse. The Weediverse, man. Could smoke a ball. I mean, I just say that. Could just eat a mushroom. Too. But let's get logged in here first. I wonder where my StreamYard's at. I gotta send it to myself. Alright, well, I'm gonna open the panel anyway, so feel free to join. Feel free to join. We got Ian, we got Ty. Fuck yeah, dude. It's a good party right now already. There we go. Let's go to my channel now. and log in my own damn self. Oops, that wasn't right. Already fucking up. There we go. The Drew tubes. Reload. Come on, Drew tubes. There I am. There I is. Abby is here. Come on, load. Load. There I am.
Hey guys. It's still fucked up. Hang on. There we go. My bad. Oh shit. I started that shit wild, didn't I? Straight from the fucking truck. Straight from the truck. Alright, let's make a bowl. Oh, we got here first, actually. Hang on. We got Pat. We got Jedi. We got Ty. We got Ian. That is a chunky kitty. He is chunk. He's a chunky little boy. Okay. Is Pinky in the mic? Yep. I can't. Open butthole Drew. Not gonna get Drew banned. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's move this over. All right. There we go. Now it's time for weed. Weed. Let's see. We're smoking Sour Haze right now. Sour Haze the ways. Sour Haze. Sour Haze. And if anybody would like to join to smoke a bowl with me, that'd be great. I lost 3 viewers as soon as I was about to smoke a bowl. It's like, oh wait, no, we can't do that. That's illegal. Not though. It not. It be a not illegal, man. All right, James. Smoke on that perp lemonade. Lemon perp. And that's when we get started. Find some conspiracy theories to listen to or something. I don't know. Unless someone else comes up and chats. Maybe do me a favor and throw me in Discord maybe a couple times, guys. I'd super appreciate it. If you threw me in Discord right now and brought me up a few subscribers or chat or viewers, you'd be doing me a huge favor. That's how you do it. Who banned you? I didn't ban you. I never banned you, Ian. I got something here. I got some conspiracies to listen to, boys and ladies. Conspiracy Drew Hour. Let's go. There we go. The most dangerous video game ever played. Polybius. Let's present this. Oops, not invite. Present. Presenting Polybius. What you ever knew about video games before, you don't know. Because you just didn't.
Things speed up and you got to go faster, but the way this was an assault was very different, and my eyes really started to hurt. It just felt like things were popping loose in my head or coming alive, or it's just like popcorn slowly going off in my head. It was straining my circuit boards, and then at that time is when the screen just went totally black, except for me in the center.
Maybe you never played, but wish you did.
Either restricted licensing or banned the games altogether. Why? Fear, rumors, tall tales of corruption and evil.
Games no longer will be licensed in residential areas, only in commercial and industrial neighborhoods. Officials say they are responding to complaints from parents that children have skipped school or stolen money to play the games.
Pay close attention.
Is that a yes? I would definitely be that kind of a writer. Yeah.
The urban legend of Polybius has become famous throughout gaming culture, but there always seem to be loose ends somewhere. A sense of ambiguity, but I'm pretty sure I have all the pieces now to connect the dots and tell you the full story. So get ready and buckle up. Our story begins in 1981. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The 80s was one hell of a time to be alive. A new age, changing cultural norms, and the beginning of a plethora of incredible advances in technology, but also a time rich with urban legends. One such urban legend is that of Polybius, which began in an arcade, the most probable location being the Malibu Grand Prix arcade in Portland, Oregon, now Malibu Raceway. This is all according to Kat Despira, aka Retro Bitch. Kat, who's an Oregon native, practically grew up in the arcades there. So she was there when the rumor began. And later on, when its existence resurfaced and claims of its effects, she spearheaded the investigation into it.
The 80s was when I first heard there was this game that hurt you. Nobody ever called it Polybius. The initial, original reports of the game was that it was in a black, unmarked box. Then by 1990 something, all of a sudden the name Polybius came up.
Allegedly, rumors of the game first appeared on Usenet in the early 90s.
I remember this.
Let's just theorize for a second that the game never existed. Why would people weave such an insane origin story? I mean, how would people even source information like this? There was a time when discussing conspiracy theories was considered taboo. On Usenet, you can find a lot of crazy conversations that people have spun up. But in the past, there really wasn't anything to prove whether or not this information was true or not. It was just kind of word of mouth. See, before we had the internet, there were magazines. And in the July 1985 issue of Freedom magazine, there were several articles about concerns over mind control and the fact that the technology exists and nobody takes it seriously. But in order to provide context and prove it, we'll have to go back even further to 1953. This is about 5 years after the CIA was founded. And in the founding documents on one of the first pages, there's an interesting quote, which reads, quote, "What appeared to be the most striking success have often, if they're not rightly used, brought the most overwhelming disasters in their train. And conversely, the most terrible calamities have, if bravely endured, actually turned out to benefit the sufferers." End quote. By Polybius from Rise of the Roman Empire. Curious. With the rise of the military-industrial complex in 1953, possibly earlier, the CIA was funding the Allen Memorial Institute, where Dr. Donald Cameron focused his research on Project MK Ultra and about 149 sub-projects. Over the next few decades, the CIA even gave funding to colleges on American soil to conduct certain experiments related to sub-projects of MK Ultra, mind control and behavioral modification. But it didn't just stop at MK Ultra. It went on into other projects with offshoot military companies like RAND and DARPA, just to name a few, who went even deeper down the rabbit hole of sensory response and behavioral modification, which are often looked at as the spiritual successors of MK Ultra. Oh, and let's not forget that time that they did a scientific analysis of waveform energy and consciousness, but it's probably not accurate, right? The millions and millions and billions of dollars that they spent on these projects.
One of the first ones that you said.
Focused scientific analysis and research.
This is where
cognitive
USAID
science
came
and
from, by the way.
informatics. By the way, Polybius lived in the land of Arcadia. In a 1982 Time magazine article, there's a specific mention of Atari's Battlezone weapons trainer. It also talks about epilepsy and the dangers of arcades, which, now that you have a bigger scope of what the CIA is capable of, brings us back to 1981. So we can delve deeper down the rabbit hole of the Polybius mystery.
Life, people not believing me. I'm to the point where I don't care anymore. Now people are talking about this, and what people are saying is just kind of like these light jokes and silly conspiracy theory stuff or urban legends, and it's just kind of fun, culty myth stuff. But this ruined my life.
There's a lot to unpack here in 1981, but I'm going to do my best to explain it to you guys. I'm going to quickly break down the listing on coinop.org. First off, this wasn't posted in 1998. It was posted in the year 2000. If you haven't seen the video that Ahoy made on Polybius, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's a really good video that gives you perspective on how the timelines match up to the claims that the game actually existed. With that being said, I do think that there was supposed to be some sort of encrypted message or a cipher on this CoinOps listing, and I'll get into that more later. But right now, let's match up some of these claims with actual events in real life. Okay, the first two key phrases are very limited release and backwater arcades. Let's also take these parameters into consideration, not a vector game. The first and most likely candidate is Aka Matey. This game had a very limited release with specific location testing. It's a raster game, not vector, but it kind of has the vector appeal. It's very colorful, very flashy, and allegedly there's only 3 known prototypes. The title of the game in itself is confusing to look at. I mean, if you were a kid and you saw that, you probably would just think it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But the description on CoinOps does say the game was weird looking, kind of abstract, fast action with some puzzle elements. While the side panels of the arcade cabinet are white, it's an unmarked cabinet. And the game and concept definitely look abstract. Our second option is a game called Blaster by Williams. This is actually an awesome game, but it is visually intense. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, this is one of those games that will take you straight into Seizureville. But it definitely meets the no vector criteria and the intense, abstract, visually stimulating description of Polybius. Cover your eyes because things are about to get flashy. Jeff Minter needs to remake this. Come on, Yak, for the fans. And secondly, there is clear evidence that the CIA, in conjunction with DARPA, wanted to test psychoenergetic interactions between humans and machines. It is well known during this time frame, Atari and Bally would often put prototype arcade games into unmarked cabinets. This was supposed to be a picture of somebody playing Polybius in a black unmarked cabinet, but well, that's an HS2 or an HS5, and this picture is clearly from the early 90s. Neither of those cabinet styles were released by Dynamo until the Signature series came out in '89. That being said, within our timeline of 81 to 84, there was about a dozen games made that closely matched the description of what was on coinops.org. However, none of those games are Polybius.
Especially teenagers don't want to go to an arcade where there's not some element of danger. That's kind of why you're there, right? Back in February of 1981, my friend Tony Says came over to my house. I lived on 23rd and Hawthorne, which is situated right in between the Hawthorne Arcade District and Lloyd Center. He came over one day and said, "Hey, we got to go downtown." And I was like, "Why?" he said, there's this great game downtown by the university, but it's kind of dangerous. And I go, what do you mean it's dangerous? And he says, some kid got hurt playing it. It drove him crazy.
By the way, the audio clips that you've been hearing of Catherine DeSpira and Bobby Feldstein are from a podcast called The Polybius Conspiracy. While all of Kat's testimony is true, the showcase does a good job of continuing the legacy of Polybius as an urban legend. There were quite a few arcade hotspots in Portland during this time, both in the city and near the suburbs, but nothing backwater as far as hodunk goes. I did reach out to Kat DeSpira to ask her what her experience with test sites and culture was like at that time. Here are some highlights from her email reply.
Test sites for games were used 1978 to 1982 and were almost exclusively used by Atari, Williams, Bally Midway, etc. The big names who could afford to invest in test sites. Test sites were very selective and usually in major cities or affluent suburbs, with malls like Lloyd Center in Portland or Vancouver Mall across the bridge from Oregon in Washington State. Another big test site was Mother's in the Chicago suburb of Arlington Heights. Games they tested weren't one-offs, and most of them being tested in 1981 were shooters because that's where the money was. Both Asteroids and Defender were the #1 games maintaining interest in 1981. Plain black cabs that operators changed boards out were common sights in arcades in 1981. Sometimes there would be a sign up above saying, "New game." They always sucked and were usually cutie games, as they were referred to back then. Games that were made for little kids and had maze patterns and cute characters. I saw Kangaroo for the first time that way. But sometimes Shooter. Rarely though, and they were almost always Space Invader clones. Counterfeit boards for games was a huge problem in the early 80s. I don't waste time trying to figure out what game it might have been because I don't believe the legend is real. I don't believe it because I was there in 1981, and I know that the raids and kids passing out during marathons on Asteroids and Defender were real and normal. Anyone who spent 24 to 60 hours on a game experienced physical discomfort. That too was normal. It was not unusual at all. I know dozens of former marathoners from the 80s. They all passed out, hallucinated, and had horrible side effects from lack of sleep during the sessions at times. Billy Mitchell almost shit his pants from diarrhea during a marathon and would have had someone not had a bucket handy.
Let's take a look at the hard facts and compare them to the original coin-op listing. Yes, the games we've seen are fast action and abstract for sure. Puzzle elements in some, and there was definitely an anti-video game crusader in the 80s, Jack Thompson. And yes, the game disappeared. Now, of course, Atari is going to collect data from their prototype machines. It's probable but debatable whether or not they would have been wearing black coats. Most Atari employees dressed like it was Casual Friday. And the feds definitely would...
That too was normal. It was not unusual at all. I know dozens of former marathoners from the 80s. They all passed out, hallucinated, and had horrible side effects from lack of sleep during the sessions at times. Billy Mitchell almost shit his pants from diarrhea during a marathon and would have had someone not had a bucket handy.
Let's take a look at the hard facts and compare them to the original coin-op listing. Yes, the games we've seen are fast action and abstract for sure. Puzzle elements in some, and there was definitely an anti-video game crusader in the 80s, Jack Thompson. And yes, the game disappeared. Now, of course, Atari is going to collect data from their prototype machines. It's probable but debatable whether or not they would have been wearing black coats. Most Atari employees dressed like it was Casual Friday. And the feds definitely would have been seen in or around the area.
Yeah,
I doubt they would have been wearing black suits.
You get that for free
Kind of
back in the
obvious.
box.
One big point I want to make here is people who do have epileptic episodes do have lost time or loss of memory. This is a real thing. While DARPA and RAND are military offshoots and have been known to dabble in video games, the truth is at the time, Atari was technically a military offshoot because they developed the Battlezone game for the military. It's worth noting that in ACA R, you do shoot off of a military turret.
Ever since I was a kid, I had these food nightmares about a hole in the earth, and there were these monsters that lived inside the earth, and they would come out of the hole, and you had to kill them before they got out. That's the story.
Like literally.
Tempest was created from a nightmare, and it was known to give people epileptic episodes and cause people to get sick. This is during a time when big headlines could fairly easily spread paranoia. And a young man, Peter Bukowski, did die from playing Berserk. Well, not from playing it, he just had heart problems to begin with. There was a fight where somebody got stabbed that broke out outside of an arcade, but it had nothing to do with the actual game hypnotizing anybody. And the Asteroids kid had too many Nodos and sodas over a 28-hour period. Who wouldn't feel sick after 28 hours of Asteroids?
I had the levels rotating, so you would turn the knob and the cylinder would rotate with all the creatures on the cylinder rotating with the cylinder, and it was making people nauseous, which is not a good thing.
So all of the confusion and associations connected to Polybius completely make sense. They all were real and actually happened, just had nothing to do with Polybius. Arcades did close down, the feds did raid places, kids were caught doing stuff they weren't supposed to be, and there was very exclusive testing back then.
News from the Starcade Hotline. From Detroit, the Saker 1.
The Saker 1 is another example of an exclusive location test. At the time, it was definitely a cool piece of tech, but not something that was ready to be widely distributed. The technology was most likely appropriated by military, still serving as a good example for exclusive location tests. So where does this leave us with Polybius? Well, first of all, let me tell you about this photograph. I don't know exactly when this was taken, but it was obviously taken using some sort of older digital technology. But I did manage to locate this cabinet online. And yes, this is the same cabinet. You just have to remember the other photo is lower quality and the lighting and angle are different. But here, let's do a little photo magic on this much higher quality picture and see what happens. We'll go black and white. I won't even add any blur to it. Interesting. What's even more interesting is if we go to the source, there's also a link to Vintage Arcade Superstore, where the cabinet was allegedly acquired from. But it looks like it's in the same room to me, just in a different spot. It's also interesting that it's running the Sinnesloshen version of the game and using an LED monitor, or LCD. This all led me back to coinup.org, and I couldn't stop reading the description of Polybius. And the more I looked at it, the more I saw a cryptic message sticking out at me, a pattern in the wording. I started looking at the page source and the comments. And as I did, something odd caught my attention, but it wasn't in the page source of CoinOp. Inadvertently, I had gotten the idea to look through the page source when I was sifting through some other information about Sinnesloshen. This was because of certain inconsistencies that I found in the story of the company. My research eventually took me to this post on puzzling. Usually when you see posts like this, most of the valuable information can be found near or in the comments. Sometimes you'll find someone who actually knows what they're talking about. And as I scrolled down, I found this. In the comments on the post of CoinOp, there's a link. And when you go to that link, you'll find this information embedded in the website. But I had to check for myself. I had to see if there was any other meaning in there, because all these references were very specific and play into the deeper conspiracy of Polybius as a game. When you get to this page, you can view frame source by right-clicking. If you scroll through all the way down to the bottom of the page, you'll find that there's all this extra text that doesn't show up on the actual page itself. Now keep in mind, this is from the Wayback Machine. And there it is, all the references and connections to MK Ultra and some of the colleges that may have even worked with the CIA during those time frames, as well as some traceable tech industry companies like Spyglass, for example. I needed to go back and check the page source on the CoinOp listing. Maybe there's a pattern. On my way to do that, I decided to check one more thing. I remembered the April Fool's joke, and I wanted to see if there was maybe a connection to that source code, which I couldn't find any evidence of. But I did notice something strange on Moby Games. The studio Frankenstein was directly connected to Sinnesloshen, and it's the only game produced by both studios. Now, I did cross-reference names from the post about the fictional company, and there was no results. So I thought, okay, they've legitimately published a game before. Let me check this out. and I decided to go to the trademark website, first German and Czech, but there was no result, so I went to the USPTO website to check their trademark system. And to my surprise, I got a hit. Sinneslauschen, Polybius, and Rogue Synapse. All three names associated with the exact same address, located in Dallas, Texas. It's a well-known fact for people who've been looking at this for a long time that the game was first connected to Rogue Synapse. Rogue Synapse officially became a registered trademark in 2003. And 2003 is right around the time that Polybius appeared in GamePro magazine. Rogue Synapse has done some really awesome work. In case you're unaware, they recreate classic arcade games that were originally in movies, but never released to the public. Two of my favorites are Space Paranoids and The Last Starfighter. So now I was taking a look at the creation date for Sinneslauschen and Polybius. I wanted to
Use
verify
Roadhog on the front of the
ownership
bottle
and
like
the
you would
date
Aunt
that they were
Jemima.
created. I did find that the trademark for Sinneslauschen was moved to the UK in 2023. Polybius was released in the later part of 2007. Both the game and Sinneslauschen became registered trademarks in January of 2008. Cross-referencing the addresses for verification led me right to who the owner is. One Dr. Vance. And just to clear up any paranoia, he has no searchable history of being involved with any shady agencies. So the timeline goes as follows. 2003, Rogue Synapse becomes a registered trademark, and in 2008, Sinneslauschen and Polybius both become registered trademarks. Kurt Kohler has said before that the wording on the coin-op post is very specific. My assumption at this point is that the post was put there as a riddle, which grew into something much bigger than anyone ever expected, which makes me think that this game is a complete fluke. It was just one event
I can't remember what I said. That was 30 seconds ago.
that led to another, building an entire Polybius narrative. The whisper that first started the urban legend created a video game. This was no government conspiracy, but rather a play on words, and I was starting to see it for what it really was. One of the only ways I'd be able to get in the right lighting to expose the alternate image of this hologram was to utilize a powerful tool capable of doing something that I was not. I tried using different keywords to cipher meaning out of the post with no avail. Words like Sinneslauschen, MK Ultra, and other game titles didn't give me any results. But it wasn't making any connections until I asked it to validate the extraction of AKA-R as a concrete cipher.
Huh. All right.
To certain critical mass, you start to get
Well, that was interesting.
not just that people are interacting, but that the story is actually not just taking life, but taking form or giving form. That's a magical thing that I have no explanation for, but I've seen it happen over and over again.
You seem like the perfect kind of person then that would create the Polybius myth.
I think that it sounds like something that would be right up my wheelhouse. Yeah, quite a bit.
Is that a yes?
I would definitely be that kind of a writer. Yeah.
Perhaps from the mouth of Kevin Mannis to the internet, where it was blended with ages of Cold War era lore and stories of strange and unfortunate events throughout early 80s gaming culture as a riddle for AKA-R. Possibly coined somewhere else, it perhaps grew into a Blair Witch-esque project. Without regard to the eye of the beholder, it continued to gain traction. With a strong response from the gaming community, it eventually manifested itself through the engineers at Rogue Synapse. Whatever the story is, it's highly unlikely we will ever be able to pinpoint exactly how it became what it is now. But two things are for certain. Kevin Mannis was right when he said, quote, "It's a magical thing," end quote, that we can't explain. After sifting through all the ambiguity, the second is that the evidence is conclusive. Polybius, as a 1981 killer arcade game, never existed. Or did it?
Who would have believed that one day we'd be able to see this image? A black hole in the universe, a strange star from which no light or person can escape. This image was calculated using the equations of general relativity, a scientific theory of space and time developed 100 years ago. A theory that was in turn praised, rejected, forgotten, and then rediscovered. A theory that this black hole nearly killed. My theory.
The theory of relativity is infamous for its difficulty. I want to show that there's nothing peculiarly difficult about it.
Let me illustrate this with an example here. Let's imagine that this piece of jelly is the space. Then the presence of matter is to distort the space.
Einstein's theory of relativity does lead us into very strange and unfamiliar paths.
Relativity is perfectly intelligible to anybody who is willing to think.
In the 20th century, I was known by the name of Albert Einstein, and for my equation E equals mc squared. I sought to understand nature through mathematics. I had a new vision of the architecture of the universe, and I expressed it in a theory, general relativity. General relativity is a theory about gravity, the mysterious force that attracts stars and planets to each other. For 250 years before my theory, gravity was the realm of the great scientist Isaac Newton. My theory revolutionized the worlds of physics and mathematics.
Newton's theory of gravity, revolutionary in its scope and concision, had held water since the end of the 17th century. It is fascinating to think that to explain just a few changes to this law, everything had to be turned on its head. And that is exactly what Einstein did. His theory of gravity involves several major modifications. Space is no longer straight, but curved, depending on the matter inside. Giving a position at a given time no longer makes sense. Positions and times are intertwined, and geometry now has to be seen in 4 dimensions. And we can't count on this equation here anymore. It needs to be replaced by one with a radically different form.
First of all, I discovered that space and time were actually connected, working as one. And matter, such as stars and planets, bends and curves this space-time. That curvature is the gravitational field, obliging the planets to rotate around the sun. Nothing, not even rays of light, can escape the curvature. All these discoveries were based on a single observation, that of free fall, known since Galileo, and which can even be observed on the moon.
In my left hand, I have a feather. In my right hand, a hammer. And I'll drop the 2 of them here, and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time.
That owns the cosmos for sure.
I saw and understood free fall differently from all other people. It guided me towards the curvature of space-time. All I had to do was observe closely.
Einstein himself tells us about the moment when he understood that this was the tool.
I'm just going to say, that outfit, guys. And the hair. than the hair. But yeah, anyway.
That would allow him to form his theory. In 1907, he wrote, I was sitting at my desk in the patent office in Bern when suddenly I thought that if somebody was in free fall, they wouldn't feel their own weight, and I was surprised. He realized that gravity has the property, and is the only force with this property, of disappearing as a result of its own effect. And that if we are in free fall, and so under the effect of gravity, we feel like there's no gravity.
In my day, I was only able to experiment this idea through thought. But 100 years later, the physicists of the 21st century have new tools, such as this tower in Germany, which can create a vacuum that eliminates air resistance. By dropping objects in capsules into the tower, we can see how, in free fall, our weight disappears.
In this experiment, we put 2 objects on a scale in this capsule, which will be dropped into free fall in the tower. The needles on both scales will fall back to 0, showing, albeit not particularly precisely, how this apple and this 1 kilo weight fall in exactly the same way in the gravitational field. So it looks like mass doesn't exist anymore, which may seem absurd because if we're able to eliminate gravity, then does gravity exist?
Does the apple exist? How many protons are in the apple? It's for millions of dollars to push this tube around on a cart. Yeah. We made that, guys.
Once sealed, the capsule will be raised to a height of 110 meters for a 5-second freefall in a vacuum.
See how easy was that to put together? But why can't engineers make shit that easy to fix?
So we have perfect conditions for every experiment that is done in weightlessness. So for example, if we have some experiments for space, we can test the payload or the equipment in our facility.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm reading scripture. Good luck.
Here we have a view of the inside of the drop tube.
Okay, so 3.
Then after 1 second,
it will go 3, 2, 1. So now I'm a launcher.
So now we have to search for the right time in the video for the 5 seconds.
The 5 seconds. Okay. So this is after again.
Okay.
Something is happening. Okay. So now here we are during the free fall. It's almost 0 on both sides. Gravity has disappeared. It worked.
Yeah.
Until now, this principle, the cornerstone of my theory, has proved watertight. Nobody has been able to prove it wrong. A team of French researchers is preparing to test the principle in space. Their satellite microscope, set for launch in 2016, will orbit 700 kilometers above the Earth and provide an unprecedented precision of measurement. But let's wait and see. In science, the experiment is our sole judge. Back in 1907, this idea, today known as the principle of equivalence, led me like a lighthouse in the night to rethink gravity. I returned to Switzerland in 1912 after 5 years of work. I returned to the city of my student days. The 2 years I spent in Zurich would be the most important of my life. I was offered a professorship in physics at the Zurich Polytechnicum School, now known as ETH Zurich.
So here's ETH.
One of my old university friends, Marcel Grossman, had become a professor there. He was far better than me in geometry. His notebooks inspired me on numerous occasions.
Oh, yeah.
Impressive, no? Yes, it's very detailed. The fundamental properties of elliptic functions.
He was preparing to work for Einstein, without knowing it, obviously. But that's what was going on. It's really surprising. I didn't think it happened like that.
What I would have done without Grossman, I really cannot say, because the mathematical obstacles before me seemed insurmountable. General relativity made me work like a monomaniac. To see if I was on the right track, I used a flaw in Newton's theory. Newton's gravitational equation couldn't predict the precise orbit of Mercury around the Sun. Mercury's perihelion, its closest point to the Sun during the year, shifted
Later,
much too
Modog.
fast.
Thanks for being here, man.
This was a perplexing problem that physicists and astronomers just couldn't crack.
He arrived at the definitive theories in November 1915. Definitive, in particular, because he determined Mercury's perihelion with incredible precision.
After all these years, I still remember those evenings spent with Marcel Grossman in this cafe on the River Limmat, putting the world into equation. Our discussions concerned not only our studies, but ranged far beyond, over all the topics that could interest young people who kept their eyes wide open. It was here that my theory took form.
The key to describing gravity is the geometry of space-time. So, for the objects present in the universe, you have to determine the gravitational field they create, namely the geometry of space-time.
To do so hinged on solving an equation that took me 8 years to create. I wrote it as follows. G mu nu is equal to 8 pi g over c4 times t mu nu. A single equation and just a few mathematical symbols to describe our universe.
Based on a mathematical hypothesis, he opened up a new path, one that is still relevant today. It's incredible. You could have thought that it wasn't going to work.
But it did work. And it was here that the theory started to take on a life of its own, to unveil properties of nature that nobody had foreseen. Curved geometry implied that time didn't pass in the same way in all parts of the universe. Gravity influences time. The stronger the gravity field, the more time slows down. This threw everybody, myself included. In my day, it was impossible to test this prediction through experiments. Gravity on Earth is too weak, and its effects on time are imperceptible. But technology having evolved, in your day, this difference in time can be measured with...
It totally was pulled.